The tropical development chance in the Western Caribbean continues to go higher. I've got all the newest information and the model data for you. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. Great to see you on a Thursday. Hope you're doing well. Coming up in this video, all the newest information on our potential development area here in the Western Caribbean. We'll take a look at the time frame. We'll take a look at the potential, which continues to grow and should continue to unfortunately elevate here. So we'll talk about the potential impacts for our area and where this might be headed. It's been a very active weather day across our area. We'll get into some of the heavier showers and storms, and I've got your island by island rainfall forecast as well. Love to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments section below what's been going on in your area, what the weather has been like. We'll get started. This is our broad enhanced satellite imagery, the live lightning data here on this Thursday afternoon at Meteo Mundo. All the numbers that you see are current temperatures here in Fahrenheit. Again, it's been a fairly hot day across most of the area, but it's also been a pretty active day in some spots. And we'll start in the northwest Bahamas, where the storms have just been going gangbusters all day long. They developed in the morning hours. They've been with us through the morning, afternoon here, and will probably still linger into the early evening hours in a couple of spots. Let's take a look at the live radar data here. And again, we've had numerous severe thunderstorm warnings in the Bahamas for today. Northwest, central sides of the islands. Very healthy rain, could even lead to some isolated flash flooding. Watch out for that. Also, the king tides are in effect, so that could lead to some localized flash flooding. A lot of clouded ground lightning, a little bit in the way of some gusty winds, but I haven't seen anything too outrageous. The storms are trying to fade a bit in this late Thursday afternoon window, but we've had some healthy storms. Walker's Key, Grand Bahama earlier today, Abaco, Bimini, back down towards Andros, New Providence, Nassau area, over towards Eleuthera, even back down towards Cat Island and Long Island, Exuma, the Berry Islands, Rum Key, San Salvador, all have had some pretty darn good storms. At the hour, a little bit more prolific still over Andros and into Nassau, but all of this is beginning to fade for a bit. But again, it's been a very active, wet, stormy day across the northwest and the central Bahamas on this Thursday. And you can see some of the activity again slip into the central Bahamas. It is a little bit quieter today for the Acklands and the Turks and the Caicos. Not completely quiet. There's a few showers trying to pop up even back down towards Matthewtown. So not completely dry, but obviously the farther north you go in the island chain, the more active it's been. We do have storms developing right now at the hour over Cuba. Once again, those will go very widespread. Heavy rainfall, thunderstorm activity there. We'll get into this area in orange coming up a little bit more, friends. I promise you that. Let's see what's happening with our friends in Jamaica right now. We've had an isolated storm develop in the western side of the island. Still quiet, still hot for today for Kingston. Take a look at their temperature, which hit 93 Fahrenheit for today. Your heat index hit 110, I believe, for a brief time. In Kingston, that is 43.3 degrees Celsius. So not a lot of rain for today, but a few storms developing western sides of the island, mainly St. James, St. Elizabeth, trying to slip west into the Westmoreland and Hanover parishes as it kind of skirts off the island. But not a ton of storms for today. Same thing for the Cayman Islands. We've been hot and dry there. Few more storms this afternoon for the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Still pretty isolated in nature overall. You catch one of these storms, consider yourselves a little bit lucky. They're going to try and develop inland from Santo Domingo, then race south and west towards the coast. So at least some cloud coverage over Santo Domingo. And again, you catch a shower, you're fairly lucky there. A little bit more prominent right over the country borderline, and they'll try and slip west, get a little bit closer to Port-au-Prince a little bit later in the day. It's been quiet for portions of the U.S. and British Virgin Islands for today. Not completely, but we've had some more widespread storms today over Puerto Rico. We've even had a few flood advisories over this area. You can see that big blow-up of thunderstorms right around midday for today in the central and then into the western sides of the islands, which did prompt those flood warnings. I tell you what, it's luckily as well in most spots not nearly as hot as what it has been. Now, I got hot in Ponce before the rain came through. They hit 95 degrees Fahrenheit, but this cloud coverage, this rain has helped out most of the areas for today. We've had more localized rain over portions of the U.S. Virgin Islands for today. You can see a shower developing over the St. Croix area once again in midday. Then the sun came back out. You know, it gets a little bit hot when it does that as well. Same situation over St. Thomas. They had a thunderstorm there earlier, and then it's dried back out again. Throw on the visible satellite imagery. Still can't rule out a couple of passing showers over the Virgin Islands the remainder of this Tuesday, but it'll be isolated in nature. That's the same situation situation for most of the Lesser Antilles as well. We've actually had some localized rain for today, but where it hasn't rained, it's exceptionally hot. But we've seen some of that for today. Antigua, Barbuda's had some rain as well, trying to get a few showers near St. Kitts. Not even the entire islands that I'm naming have had all of this rain, more choice locations than anything, but it's been a little bit more widespread as well. You live up in Anguilla, you've had some of the showers, let me know. Trying to get a shower to develop over the western sides of Guadeloupe, a little bit more prominent northern sides of Dominica. You see that temperature go down. Martinique, at least some cloud coverage and a spotty shower, but the big story today has continued to be this trough axis, this shear line, which is really impacting much more significantly St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Barbados for today. We've had a lot more showers and storms in these areas compared to the rest of the Lesser Antilles. As a matter of fact, Barbados has gotten hammered again for today. They've had active flood warnings. They've had active severe thunderstorm warnings. They've had some areas of the island that had more than 3 inches of rain just on this Thursday. So very wet weather here. Watch out for the isolated flooding threat in Barbados. We've had some heavier rain through portions of St. Lucia as well. When I go back over to the enhanced satellite imagery, you can clearly see these storms. Again, they're much more oriented east to west, so they're not impacting a lot of areas, but where they are, the storms are quite prominent. St. Vincent got hit pretty good for today. Same thing for Bequia. You get south in the Grenadines towards Carriacou, they really haven't had anything. Same thing for Grenada. Trinidad and Tobago, so for today so far, we've been quiet. We're trying to get a few storms coming off the mainland to give some rain to Nueva Esparta on this Thursday, and we have been quiet, hot and dry across the ABC Islands. On over towards portions of Central America and the Yucatan, thunderstorms are developing at the hour just inland from Cancun and Cozumel, mainly drifting south and west, so staying inland in the Yucatan. Same thing for Belize as well. Not a lot of storm activity for San Pedro and Belize City, Dangriga, and even really missing San Ignacio to the west. Few storms towards inland sides of Guatemala. It's more healthy right now, eastern sides of Honduras and in Nicaragua, and these storms are racing west. They'll try and get as far west as Tegucigalpa late in the day. Same thing for Managua, and then on over towards Costa Rica and Panama. It's just been a wetter day. Storms are more prolific here. And again, this is all part of that Central American gyre kicking back in, which will feed the moisture in the Southwest Caribbean and lift it north into this potential development area. But this is where the moisture is going to be coming through from, and then the dynamics to spin things up will be a little bit farther to the north. And we'll get into all of that coming up in just a second. Friends, take a quick second to appreciate my Meteo Mundo weather community. Thank you for taking a brief second as well to hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to Meteo Mundo, you're looking for these daily forecasts in this area and your tropical updates, you found your home. Thank you for clicking that subscribe button, sharing this with anyone you think will get something out of it, and of course, ways to support me here at Meteo Mundo as well. Really appreciate that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to get into the rainfall forecast over the next few days through the weekend, and then we will deep dive into the tropics and especially this area in orange. Now, obviously, at the end of this forecast of the next 3 days, we'll have a little bit to talk about with this area because the moisture will begin to feed into this area, and we're going to see some potentially heavy rainfall areas developing in the Western Caribbean beginning late this weekend, okay? This is the NAM model, and you can clearly see that. First thing up is that we now have an orange area for the National Hurricane Center. So we now are up to a 40% chance of development as early as late this weekend, but more than likely early next week, with it lifting north. And I promise you that that number is only going to go higher. That 40% chance of development is only going to go higher and higher because all the models are still very locked in on producing a tropical system from this area. But let's talk first and foremost what's going to be happening in the Western Caribbean as the moisture lifts to the north. It's going to start getting wet. And I know a lot of you don't mind that. And we'll start with a place that could use some of this rain, and that's Jamaica. Now look, the rain chances will still be relatively low for tomorrow, but Saturday, Sunday, the rain chances really build in. Again, I believe that you will stay east of the development area, but you'll also be on the eastern wetter side, and that should start to bring some higher rain chances Saturday, Sunday, and into early next week. Enough so, where we might even be talking about the potential for some isolated flooding in Jamaica as well. We'll go from an exceptionally dry forecast, relatively speaking, to a relatively wet forecast. So, you know, the devil's still in the details, but rain chances are going to be going higher and higher for the entire island. Negril, Lucy, Savlamar, Kingston, Port Antonio, it doesn't matter where you are, Old Harbor, halfway tree, we're going to get better rain chances coming into these areas. That's the bottom line. Now, the NAM is also going to try and throw some of this moisture as far east as the Dominican Republic and Haiti. So we could even see some influence here in Santo Domingo and Port-au-Prince from this developing area. And again, the first and foremost, is this is going to be a huge swath of tropical moisture. There's just going to be an abundant amount of rain developing in this area. Turks and Caicos will see a few showers from this. We're still going to get more localized rain and storms for the northwest and central Bahamas before this even arrives. The activity that you're seeing here in places like Freeport, Lucaya, and Nassau is still localized. It's going to be very wet still tomorrow and Saturday, trying to dry out a little bit on Sunday. But just like the last couple of days for my friends here, including Nassau, these storms won't wait until the afternoon hours. We could see some of this developing in the morning. Again, this is tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Here you go. Here's the wet weather already getting kicked up. Wouldn't shock me if we have more severe thunderstorm warnings. And again, with the king tide still in play, now you have the opportunity for some isolated flooding. So if you live in these areas, let me know if you experience some of that. Rain chances do fall again the farther south you go in the islands. Look, I've talked about some wet weather, and Cuba will be included in that, but it's going to be even wetter for places like the Cayman Islands. We're going to start to see that rain move in, and again, rain chances will just go higher and higher in the Cayman Islands, again, in that development area. Could see some exceptionally high rainfall chances at least through early next week. The farther north and west that you go, the more direct influence you're going to have. So Cancun and Cozumel and Belize City and Roatan, San Pedro Sula, northern sides of Honduras, all high rain chances the next several days. It's going to build in tomorrow and then just get wet through the weekend and early next week, and we'll still have good high rain chances even as far south as Panama and Costa Rica as well. Now, rain chances won't be horrible for Puerto Rico and the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands the next few days, but it's not the same situation as our friends out to the west. Still some localized heavier rainfall there to cool things off from time to time. Don't really have any big peaks or valleys as far as the rain chances go, but some decent showers and storms will try and stay with us. And it's the same situation for most of the Lesser Antilles as well. Some spots will have some higher rain chances overall. There'll be some rain in these areas each and every day, but it is going to be very localized. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where those heavier showers are going to develop. Outside of that, watch out for some very hot conditions. Again, still going to see some good rain chances over the Barbados area as well. And how about this? I do expect the ABC Islands to catch the tail end of some of this moisture developing out to the west. So rain chances are going to go up a bit for Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao over the weekend as well. Not crazy high, but higher. For Bermuda, we are going to get the tail end of a little bit of rain coming off the United States East Coast. You can see that, and even some of the rain out of the Bahamas should bring up some of those rain chances as well. We do have two areas in yellow here. I'll highlight those in a second. It's the remnants of Gordon and another area here south and east of Bermuda that doesn't really look to be doing much. Not extremely concerned with it. It's a very broad area, very low in chance for anything to get going there. So let's take a look at those island by island rain chances. As I mentioned for the Northwest Bahamas, we're still really high tomorrow, Saturday. We'll tail off a bit on Sunday, but again, strong storms, severe storms, heavy rainfall likely through Saturday. Decent rain chances, central and southeast Bahamas. Again, the farther north you live, the better the overall rain chance. Still relatively low for the Turks and the Caicos. Cuba's rain chances are just going to be really high. Bottom line. Cayman Islands, rain chances just going up and up. We start at 50% tomorrow, but then we have really good rain chances Saturday and Sunday. Still area dependent, but overall that's going to be some widespread activity for all of the islands. Belize City's rain chances, again, very high Saturday, Sunday. Cancun and Cozumel's rain chances just continue to stair step upward as well. Jamaica, 40% tomorrow, 60 Saturday, 80 on Sunday. All right, and again, some of this, especially late Saturday, Sunday, could come along with some heavier rainfall, good tropical downpours on the way. Again, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico's rain chances are pretty darn good. 50 to 60% chance each and every afternoon. Some of that will have some localized heavier rainfall. Could see 1 to 2 inches in a couple of spots. U.S. and British Virgin Islands, a little bit more isolated, but not bad. Friday, Saturday, it's a 50% chance. Again, Bermuda's rain chances are best on Saturday. Anguilla, 40% chance tomorrow, 30 Saturday, 40 on Sunday. Then I've got a 30% chance for St. Kitts and Nevis. Places like St. Bart's and Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Martin will all be in about that same boat. 30–40% chance in most spots. Antigua Barbuda could be just a little bit more moisture, just a touch farther east, so I've upped the rain chance to 50 on Saturday. But everyone else stays in that 30–40% chance range. Again, without there being a huge tropical wave coming in, the easterlies, the trades will just continue to provide some decent shower activity, but nothing outrageous for most part. So Guadalupe, 40% chance for tomorrow. Same thing for Dominica. Martinique's at a 40, then a 30 on Saturday. St. Lucia tails off a little bit Saturday, Sunday. St. Vincent and the Grenadines stay with a 40 through Saturday as well. Barbados, still 40% chance for tomorrow, but man, it has been really localized and just really going gangbusters over portions of Barbados, despite the fact that the rain chance isn't crazy high. Still some very high rain totals in those areas. Grenada, 40% chance for tomorrow, 40. Trinidad, Tobago, Suriname, and Guyana. Nueva Esparta, 30% chance Friday, Saturday. And there's your at least higher rain chances for the ABC Islands for Saturday and Sunday. Friends, I hope there you get some of that rain. Here is the European model over the next 7 days. We'll look at the GFS coming up in just a little bit. And again, nice animated loop over the next 7 days. As we get towards early next week, look at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then just how widespread this 2 to 4 inch plus rainfall total is, okay? That's a lot of area. That's 50 to 100 millimeters. Again, on the European model, we shave Jamaica with some of those healthier rain totals. You get west towards the Cayman Islands, you're in that bullseye. Same thing for the Yucatan, most of Central America. Look at this, man. There's a potential developing Pacific system. And between the two that we're talking about, portions of El Salvador and Guatemala and the western sides of Honduras and Nicaragua could be talking about 8 to 10 inches of rain in some spots. Very high rainfall totals are possible there. Again, it's area dependent in the Bahamas. As you would see from the European model, it's not directly taking this system east. It's more north and west. That's on the European model. Look at that coming up. Drier air overall for the greater Antilles, back to the lesser Antilles. But again, pockets of some heavier rain. Barbados, the next last couple days, is easily that example. Now, it's going to get squirrely when we're talking about the surf and sea conditions and just the overall sea conditions in the Western Caribbean and then to the Gulf of Mexico, okay? You'll see this come back up here early next week, early to early mid next week. As this system develops, the double-digit seas begin to become very prominent, okay? And obviously, we'll talk down the road the specific impacts, but just in general, it does look like things are going to get quite choppy out there in the Northwest Caribbean and through the Gulf of Mexico. And you can just see that right at the end here. You know, you're looking at, on the model, 10, 12, 14, 16-foot waves in a couple of spots. It would not be fantastic. There is still some higher sea conditions and surf conditions along the United States East Coast, where relatively speaking, we're looking pretty good across the Lesser Antilles. With this northerly push, there could be some swells from time to time, even on the western sides of the islands. So just keep that in mind, but nothing that I think is going to be extremely prominent the farther east that we go. All right, now we're going to get into what's going to be happening with this system, all right? So we're going to look at the GFS, deterministic, we're going to look at the ensemble products, and I'm going to tell you about what I'm thinking on this Thursday. But to kind of highlight and reiterate, all is still on with these models in the development of this system, okay? I'm going to take this out about 9 days or so. Now, I want to be clear. The first thing I'm going to show you here on my weather computer is the GFS deterministic model, okay? That's going to show you one plot, one movement, all right? We still don't want to focus on that particular movement, all right? Because first of all, that can and will change, all right? We want to look more at the ensembles to take a look at the spread of potential outcomes. But the GFS is still honed in on this area for development and then moving it into the Gulf of Mexico. All right, so let's go back in time and talk about how this starts out. This is late tonight, and over the next couple of days, you're not going to see anything too prominent here, okay? As we get into Saturday and Sunday, here comes that moisture feeding in. So the first thing is disorganized, heavier rainfall, Western Caribbean. Could even be the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Certainly looks like it's going to be Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Central America, Cuba, and the Yucatan. Now, as we get into Monday and Tuesday, we start to see a bit of organization, okay? Especially on Wednesday, all right? And it's right in this area in orange, all right? feeding in here, starting to see some development. We're going to have a trough that pushes into the Northwest Caribbean, which creates a cutoff low, and kind of right around that area, we start to see some of this spin. Now, again, on this new model run of the GFS, I'm just going to show you how it plays out. It does develop it into the southeast Gulf of Mexico and then tries to push it into Florida as we get into late next week. All right. And we'll look at some of the potential intensities coming up. But I'll full run this out for you guys. So you have the development either far Northwest Caribbean, South Central, Southeast sides of the Gulf of Mexico, and then recurving back to the east towards Florida. But this would certainly be a named storm on the GFS model, okay? Would not be great news for the west coast of Florida if this were to play out. Again, it's only one model run, but now we're 5 days in a row now the GFS has been trying to develop this system. Let's take a look at the winds associated with the newest run here of the GFS. I'm going to drop off the formation area. So again, and this is a non-tropical spin here, and we'll take a look at the other two coming up as well, but obviously the focus is going to be on here. First of all, for places like Kingston and Grand Cayman and Belize City and Cancun, wind's going to freshen up, all right? This is going to be a broad area of wind just kind of starting to churn up late this weekend, and then those winds are going to be even fresher early in the week. And you can start to see those winds on our Monday begin to start to spiral in just west of Grand Cayman. But these purples are going to be some winds that are pushing 20 miles an hour or higher. And by the way, these are sustained winds that I'm showing you. They're not even the gusts. We can take a look at the gusts as well. That's fine. I mean, we're starting to get into where we need to start talking more and more about this. We're not going to get into direct impacts as of now. We're just not there yet. Again, we don't even have a center of circulation. We don't even have an invest at this point in time. But you can see on the GFS model that the development area has shifted slightly west, basically trying to develop right over Cancun and then developing north of that, but then quickly turning back north and east. Okay, so again, it's kind of squirrely here, and then it picks up, and hopefully we'll get the full run of this wind coming up here in just a second. I believe it's almost done fully rendering. Takes a little bit of time, but there we go. All right. So here again on the GFS, first of all, that's probably right around the time that we're going to start to see this wrap up, and that would be on Wednesday. And if we take a look at those winds here, let me get back to that area. So we take a look at those winds here for places like the Cayman Islands. Again, these are going to be sustained winds pushing tropical storm strength. All right. So we could have a depression. We could have a weak tropical storm trying to wrap up in the Northwest Caribbean Wednesday, Thursday. The GFS, though, as it comes into the Gulf, is when it really starts to strengthen up the system. All right. Now you have a tropical storm here. And again, Helene is the next name on the list. And on this newest run, it does try and get into the western side of Florida. And as it does so on the GFS, it would try to do so as a hurricane, okay? So we do have hurricane force winds on the deterministic model of the GFS. Now again, I want to be very, very clear here, all right? Now, this is still just one model run, and there's plenty of uncertainty in the track and the strength, all right? The better things for us to look at are these ensemble members, all right? So this is the 51 ensemble members of the GFS model. Now let's talk about the potential track and spread in strength, okay? We certainly still have the majority of them coming up the eastern side of the Gulf of Mexico. We have a couple of outliers still east enough to have more direct impacts for the Bahamas. It's an outlier, but it's certainly still plausible at this point in time. But we have a little bit more clustering right now, central, eastern sides of the Gulf of Mexico. This is a really slow loop. Here's Tuesday, again, potential development here in the Northwest Caribbean, or as the deterministic had, just a little bit farther north into the Yucatan. Some of them are faster, some of them are slower, some of them are a little bit farther off towards the west, even up towards Louisiana. So for the GFS spread, you have basically from the Louisiana coastline still to the Bahamas. Obviously, the west coast of Florida is kind of near the center line of that, or even the panhandle, and that's going to be where the majority of these ensembles take this. Now, this is Wednesday, just so we're looking at timing. This is late Wednesday. Now we're getting into early on Thursday. And again, if the GFS were to hold out, more direct impacts for portions of the Gulf Coast Thursday and potentially into Friday. This is the European model, okay? Same time frame, same slow loop here. Again, development, far northwest Caribbean, far south central Gulf of Mexico. Just like yesterday, the European model is farther west, more centered in the central Gulf of Mexico, with some of the outliers on the far western side and some of the eastern outliers up the west coast of Florida. We don't really have any European models as far east as the Bahamas, okay? But you can clearly see that there's a very big spread in the Gulf of Mexico still with this storm, all right? There's nothing to hone in on yet as far as actual track and intensity. I show you this for informational purposes only as far as that GFS deterministic, but at this point in time, these ensemble members are a lot better to look at because it allows you to clearly see that the models still have a very big breadth as far as potential development and strength and location. Some of the European models have it as a weak tropical storm, others have it as a hurricane as well, okay? So now let's look at the rainfall out of this. So let me drop off this tropical area. This is the GFS. And also as well, let me bring this out here. I might have to, I'm gonna bring this out to basically a week. Hopefully I can do this on the fly, no big deal. Okay, awesome, it did, good. So here's what the GFS is showing, okay? I wanna be clear that for Jamaica, it really looks like you guys are on the edge, okay? Notice that the GFS only has a couple of inches of rain here, but you don't go far south and west and you're into 5 inches of rain. We could have literally, you know, some areas of the island, maybe on the west side, that gets more than the east. That's how close you are to the cutoff of the heavier rain. You get to the Cayman Islands, I think we're looking at very healthy rainfall totals overall, more than likely even more than what the GFS is showing, but several inches there. There's a swath on the GFS just west of the Cayman Islands that's a foot of rain or more, okay? I don't know if it's gonna be that narrow in nature, but obviously kind of running up the chute, if you will. If you're visiting or going to Cancun, Cozumel, live in this area, the potential for some excessive rainfall here through portions of Central America, down the coastline of Quintana Roo into Central America. As I've mentioned, both the European model and the GFS are exceptionally heavy with rainfall in El Salvador and portions of Nicaragua and Honduras on the western sides here. And then you get into very high rainfall totals as this tries to develop. So I wanted to mention that. I do want to go back out here and talk about these two areas. I don't expect them to be a big deal. This is Gordon. The remnants could potentially redevelop, but it's an even lower chance than what it was yesterday. And this system here is fighting a lot of drier air. You can clearly see that. I'll keep an eye out for Bermuda, but this only has a 20% chance of development, and more than likely it's not going to be a tropical system. Friends, all eyes are going to be on the Western Caribbean. Again, first things first, it's going to bring a lot of rain, and then we'll watch out for the potential development. So again, what am I thinking? This hasn't changed since yesterday. I think there's a very high chance that we're going to get a huge area of rain and storms developing in the Northwest Caribbean this weekend. We talked about the potential for some flooding. You saw some of the rainfall totals that could be produced out of it. Still a moderate chance. I might start eking this to the higher chance tomorrow of this tropical depression or storm forming in the Northwest Caribbean or the Southeast Gulf of Mexico, probably by early next week. Again, the earliest time frame would be Sunday, but more than likely not till Monday, Tuesday, even early Wednesday. Still not sure as of now the strength and track of that tropical system. Again, anywhere from the western side of the Gulf of Mexico to the Bahamas is still into play. Can't rule out any of that at this point in time. Friends, you know I appreciate you. You can follow us across all social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video, it's mymediamundo@gmail.com. Have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to drop that in the comment section below as well while you're down there. Again, a wholehearted appreciation for liking this video and subscribing as well. Friends, you have a great rest of your Thursday. I'll be back tomorrow with all the newest information on that tropical system and the forecast across our area for the weekend ahead as well, right here at Meteo Mundo.